Gundam.tk presents High Grade Danazine. What's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs, 2Bs, GundamReviews.net, and if you saw the previous parts, the unbox and the actual parts part, anyway, the Danazine is looking very cool, despite the fact that it's only got two colors, thanks in no small part to its very unique design and some of the most ridiculously oversized parts that you've ever seen. So let's put it together and see how it looks in both of its modes and how it's going to stack up as a Vagan grunt. I mean, I'd imagine in the anime it's going to lose quite a bit, but as a model, could it be a winner? When this monster is put together, and that's the best word to describe it, the only thing I can think of is, in the universe of Gundam Age, does Tokyo exist? Because it should be scared. There's probably going to be a lot of old school fans that are going to look at this and say that this is not a Gundam mobile suit, especially not an enemy, especially not a grunt. I love the green colors, it's very Zaku-ish with that just right gray and a very nice green there. The Vagan eyes are looking great, the black and the green on the wings, of course, are going to stand out exactly the way that they do on the side of the box, and that laser, ridiculously placed as it is certainly going to add a little bit of weaponized oomph to it. The black scales going up and down are great there, the commander's fin and those wings sticking out on both the head and the body. Everything about this looks great, it's very unique, and I wonder if you compared it to some of the silly suits that we saw in Zeta Gundam, if this isn't going to find some acceptance amongst fans out there. But is he going to be able to pose? Well, first of all, for the hips, you are able to move them if you can see that black part bending in and out there, forward and back, but you're not going to get much more of a twist than that with the legs. The knees, as you saw earlier, are going to bend just a little bit over 90, and the ankles, if you move them too much, it looks like they're going to pop off that polycap, but they are going to move fairly well forward and back. It's just off to the side that you're not going to get too many options, it looks like. They are going to bend 90 degrees. The neck itself, because it's on, or well, I should call this the upper body, not the neck. Anyway, you can see that it's going to rotate around. You could do a full look behind you if you wanted to do that, if he was checking who was pulling his tail. In terms of the shoulders, you're going to be able to move those just on a regular ball joint there. They're going to rotate around, except they'll hit the ears, and they'll go back and hit the wings. You're not going to want to do too much with that. And you are going to be able to bring the arms up here so he can scratch his face and look thoughtful. The wings themselves, they're just going to rotate around here, and they are going to bend back. So if you want to have the wings all the way in an upright position as he prepares for landing, you can do that. And over here, you've got these black parts, and if you'll notice, though, they're hardly moving at all. So this one is going to move more than I expected. This one is going to bend in as well. So actually, I take back what I was saying in the parts video. This is going to go around. I suppose you could even create a crossbone-like cloak if you wanted to hide his identity. The neck itself is going to be able to move this part here on the actual body, and then up here on the head, you have that polycap, which is going to allow it to pivot around, knock the wings off, and still do a pretty good job of looking up and down where he searches for his next victim. And just a warning that already 2 times this black part has come off on camera, and these ears, you're going to have to be careful. They're really not in there all that well. So let's talk about balance here. If you saw in the previous one when he was rotating around, he's been sitting on his tail. I suppose that if you fiddled around with this and played with the legs, that you may be able to fix that center of gravity so that you can get him in a place where he's not going to go toppling forward or back. But of course, the lazy way to do it is just to always have him with his tail supported, which is just going to make him look up even angrier at the heavens and scream. Now for the Danazine to meet its new worst friend, I'm talking about the Age 3 normal. And you can see that even though he's got his legs not quite in a standing up position, that the height of the Age 3 is going to be substantially smaller. The width of the flaps over here are not going to be anywhere near as big as the wingspan, but it's when you look at it from the side that you just see the size difference between this monster and this monster of a Gundam. To grunt it up here a bit, here it is next to the advanced grade Gafran, which was its predecessor as the first UE grunt suit. And you can see that the head height, you could of course play with this one ever so slightly, not all that much, you could just arc the neck up there. But the Gafran's not going to be that much smaller in the height department. You'll notice that with the AG you're not going to be able to lift up the flaps or anything there, but certainly the size advantage is going to go to the wing dropping Danazine. In the non-grunt department, here it is next to Zehart Galetz and his old Zedora. He's looking pretty good in terms of height. You can see that with the commander's fin, this one's just going to be a little bit more. and you really see that he's got that lack of colors, but because it's in Zaku green, it seems eminently forgivable. And to this day, I'm a big fan of some of the Vagan suits, but my favorite just on looks alone has to go to the back toe. I wish this had been the main one instead of the Gafran. I mean, it was cool when it made its debut in the anime, but this is more Zaku-ish, I always figured. When you see them next to each other, you can see that the green is going to be very different between them, with the lighter green and on the body and an even lighter green up there on the shoulders. The gray on the arms is going to be the same, but you can see that this guy's just got that whole lighter motif. The yellow part there for the chest, if you're not looking at the right angle, you're not going to notice the laser down there, and nor should you probably. Whereas this one with those orange seals on the chest is certainly going to stand out. Remember that it's got a flight mode and it can open up its head as well. And here you're going to see a better example, unlike the advanced grade of the old school Vagan tail, where you can see that the dragon tail is going to look a lot more interesting than this one, which we've almost seen too many times. And getting the high-grade Gafran to stand up like this was a little bit like getting a dog to stand on its hind legs. Anyway, it works. It would work a lot better on an action base. No such issues over here with this one outside of its transform mode. But anyway, you can see that the Gafran is going to be quite a bit shorter, and it's still going to retain more of its human-ish qualities if you want to see that. Besides the fact that he's got dislocated shoulders coming forward. But you can see a lot of similarities in the heads and in those wings opening up, never mind the commander's antennas. And the wings, this is exactly what I'm talking about with just the one piece of plastic over here on the Gafran. You're going to have more than one piece of plastic, but it's just going to be in the sections of the wings, but only one piece compared to over here, by having that green and the black that just brings the thing to life and certainly makes it look a lot cooler. And in terms of the tail, like I said, that UE tail, it wasn't old when I built the Gafran, but it's gotten old having built it quite a few times, and if I could get him to balance again, you would see a side height comparison here. And I'd really say that one looks like a dragon and one looks like a dog who's begging for a treat. On to posing, where you can guess without a lot of weapons, and by that I mean any weapons, to swap on and off, that there's not going to be a lot of variety. This one he's sort of crouched over. You'll notice that he doesn't always need that tail for balance there, as he's looking for his prey, which just scampered under a table somewhere. And height comparisons really don't matter when he's got this much flexibility. Here I've just totally stretched him up, and instead of looking for enemies in low places, here he is angrily screaming and bellowing that he's the strongest one there is, as he rampages through downtown. Here he is with his wings wrapped around his body for no particular reason. His tail, depending on the angle that you put it at, even though it only swings side to side as opposed to up and down, you can end up getting it up there. And you can have him looking pretty silly, as if he's trying to convince people that he's just a house dragon as opposed to the dangerous type. To transform him, as you've seen, you can just take these parts, these ears off, and then you can end up closing the head off altogether with a pretty cool looking effect. You're then supposed to collapse this neck inwards. The manual includes some directions there for the knees, but anyway, I probably had it transformed wrong as in MS mode. Anyway, just try to get him back, make it look a little bit more streamlined, and the main way you're going to do that is just by bending down that toe. And if you pop out this Adidas cap, you can take an Action Base 2 or a borrowed one from another kit, and when you do that, you're going to be getting a dragon-esque jetliner. I don't really know what to make of this. The hands just protruding forward, while there's no denying that this is just a mobile suit mode with his legs sort of pushed backwards there. The tail is still going to look good as always. The wings, you can move those in whatever direction you want. The head, these parts are going to be falling out though fairly often, which is a little bit disappointing. But overall, I've got to say that it's a big, big improvement on the old duck. You're probably going to get whacked there. That'll wrap up my look at the mobile suit and transformation of the Danazine, but don't forget to stick around for the verdict, where I'll have a list of all the good and bad things that I could pick out for this, so that you can make a call as to whether you want to add it to your collection. Anyway, everybody, why don't you let me know what you think of the MS? Is it too non-Gundam-ish for you, or is it a new, unique, bold direction? Anyway, it's certainly going to look interesting next to the other Vagan UE suits. So anyway, why don't you let me know, and as always, stay tuned for more news, reviews, and everything else you can use, including folding parts. See ya! Well, let's see if it happens. Victory goes to who? And people wonder why my turntable is so scratched up. And If this was a sumo match, the referee would have stopped it at this point so that they can go take a drink of water.